The arrival, Hook. The night sky above Earth was calm, painted with stars that twinkled like tiny lamps. But among those stars, something unusual moved. A small alien ship glided quietly, hiding behind the shadows of the moon. Inside sat a young alien girl, curious and excited. She had been sent from her world to learn about humans. Her name was Liara. On her planet, she was known as one of the brightest explorers. She had studied many species across the galaxy. She had seen strange animals, glowing plants, and even worlds where life survived in fire. But this mission was different. This time, her task was to study humans closely. Liara had read many reports. She knew humans were clever. They built cities, created machines, and even traveled into space. She had also read that humans were emotional creatures. They laughed, cried, and sometimes even fought for reasons her people could not understand. But what interested her most was how humans continue their species. The reports from her people had been incomplete. They only said, humans reproduce in a natural biological way. Details unclear. To Liara, this was strange. On her world, children were created inside special machines. No one carried life inside their bodies. That idea was unthinkable. But here, she would finally discover the truth. The ship landed quietly in a forest. Liara stepped outside, her small figure covered in a long cloak so no human would recognize her. She looked around. The air was fresh, the ground soft with grass. She could hear the sound of insects and night birds. Not far away, she saw a human village. Lights glowed in windows, and voices echoed through the evening air. She felt her heart race with excitement. Finally, she would see them not in books, but with her own eyes. Liara entered the village the next morning. To her surprise, humans did not find her unusual. Her disguise worked well. She looked almost like them, only her eyes were brighter, glowing faintly blue. People assumed she was a traveler. They welcomed her warmly, offering food and asking about her journey. She answered carefully, saying she came from a faraway place. The humans laughed, talked, and smiled with her. They were open, far more open than any species she had studied before. But Liara did not forget her mission. She wanted to learn everything. She watched how they worked in fields, cooked meals, and cared for children. She noticed something: human families were close. Parents always stayed near their children, guiding them, teaching them, protecting them. That night, Liara sat with a group of villagers near a fire. They told stories, shared food, and sang songs. The warmth of the fire reflected on their faces. Liara felt something strange inside her chest. It was not fear. It was not duty. It was comfort. She had never felt this on her own planet. As she listened, her mind filled with questions. She wanted to know everything about them. She leaned closer and asked softly, "How do humans create new life?" The villagers looked at her, surprised. They thought she was joking. One man laughed and said, "Don't you already know? You're a grown-up, aren't you?" Liara shook her head slowly. Her innocent expression made them realize she was serious. The laughter faded. A woman sitting nearby gave her a kind smile. "Well," the woman began, "it is something natural for us. It happens between a man and a woman. Together, they share a part of themselves, and from that, a child begins to grow." Liara's eyes widened. She tilted her head, confused. "Grow? Where?" The woman touched her own stomach gently. "Here, inside the mother. For many months, the child lives inside her body until it is ready to be born." The fire cracked. Silence fell. Liara's hands trembled. She stared at the woman's stomach, then at the laughing children nearby. Her mind screamed in disbelief. Inside? Another living being inside a body? For months? Her species would never allow such danger. For them, all life was made safely in machines, never inside flesh. To Liara, this sounded horrifying and impossible. "You mean," she whispered, her voice shaking, "you carry another life within you? And this is normal?" The villagers nodded. One of them even smiled proudly. "Yes, it is the way of humans. Painful, but also beautiful. Without it, none of us would be here." Liara felt her chest tighten. She looked at the children again. They were playing happily, running in circles. She now knew where they came from. She knew the secret humans carried in their bodies. But instead of calming her, the truth sent a chill through her entire being. Her thoughts raced. This is madness. This is dangerous. How can they survive such a process? And yet they do, again and again. The fire burned bright, but for Liara, the night grew darker. She realized she had just uncovered something far more shocking than she expected. Something her people would never believe. And for the first time, she was afraid of humans. Not because of their weapons, not because of their machines, but because of their very nature. The first questions. The fire was almost gone by morning, leaving only smoke and glowing red ash. Liara had not slept. Her mind kept repeating the words the human woman had told her. A child grows inside the mother. The sentence echoed like thunder inside her head. When the sun rose, Liara walked through the village slowly. Everywhere she looked, she saw children playing and parents watching them with love. She felt her stomach twist. Now she knew the truth. She could not see them the same way again. Each child was once inside a human body. Each mother had carried life inside her flesh. She tried to hide her shock, but curiosity was stronger than fear. She needed to understand more. That day, Liara sat in the marketplace with a group of humans. They sold fruits, cloth, and small tools. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. People were friendly and smiled at her, offering food. Liara pretended to be just another traveler, but her questions were sharp, direct. "Do all humans do this?" she asked a young man who was arranging apples. He raised his eyebrow. "Do what?" "Carry life inside their bodies. Every family, every child comes this way." The man laughed. "Of course. How else would we continue?" Liara pressed further. "But is it not dangerous? What if the body cannot handle it? What if something goes wrong?" The man became quiet. His smile faded. "Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes mothers suffer. But we still do it. Without it, there is no future." Liara felt her chest tighten again. On her world, no one would risk such pain. Machines did everything safely. Here, humans risked their own lives for their children. Later, she found a group of women washing clothes by the river. The sound of water mixed with their laughter. Liara sat beside them, pretending to help, but her questions returned. "Why do you choose to do this?" she asked softly. The women looked at her, confused. "Choose? It is not really a choice. It is nature. It is life." One woman, older than the rest, added, "It is hard, yes. But when you see your child for the first time, you forget the pain. You feel only love." Liara stared at her hands, trembling slightly. Pain and love together? She could not understand this. In her world, emotions were controlled. There was no sacrifice in giving life. But here, humans accepted both joy and suffering as part of their existence. That evening, Liara returned to the fire circle. The villagers welcomed her again. Children climbed onto their parents' laps, laughing. Couples whispered to each other, smiling. The warmth of their closeness unsettled her. She asked one final question that night. Her voice was calm, but inside she was trembling. "If carrying life hurts so much, if it is so dangerous, why have you not stopped? Why have you not found an easier way?" For a moment, silence fell. Then one of the villagers answered, "Because this is who we are. We endure pain, we take risks, and we still move forward. That is what it means to be human." Liara froze. Those words struck her deeper than any weapon. She realized humans were not only surviving through strength or intelligence. They were surviving through their willingness to face suffering for something greater. She whispered to herself, "Your species is terrifying." But no one heard her. They only laughed and continued their stories, unaware of the storm inside the alien girl's mind. That night, Liara lay awake again. She stared at the stars above, thinking of her own people. If she told them what she had learned, they would not believe her. They would call humans reckless, foolish, or even insane. But she had seen the truth with her own eyes. Humans were not just clever builders of machines. They were creatures who carried life inside themselves, who mixed love and pain together, and who called it natural. And that she realized, made them far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had ever imagined. The truth revealed. The village was alive with voices the next morning. Children ran between houses, their laughter filling the air. Men carried baskets of food. Women spoke to each other as they worked. For the humans, it was an ordinary day. But for Liara, nothing felt ordinary anymore. Her mind was still trapped on one thought. A child grows inside the mother. She could not stop imagining it. The idea seemed impossible, unnatural. Yet here it was reality. That evening, she joined the humans again near the fire. She sat quietly, her bright blue eyes glowing softly in the night. The humans welcomed her, offering bread and warm drinks. They thought she was just a curious traveler. They didn't know she was from another world, trying to understand their deepest secret. Liara waited until the laughter softened, until the children grew sleepy and leaned against their parents. Then she asked, almost in a whisper, tell me everything. How does it truly happen? How does life begin inside a human body?" The villagers exchanged glances. Some laughed nervously, thinking she was making a joke again. But Liara's face was serious, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. One of the older women leaned forward. Her voice was calm and gentle. "It is not something we usually explain to strangers, but you ask with such innocence. Perhaps you deserve to know." Liara's heart pounded. She nodded quickly. The woman continued. "A man and a woman come together. Each shares a part of themselves. When those two parts join, something new begins. A tiny life starts to form." Liara tilted her head, listening carefully. She could understand the words, but not the meaning. Two become one, a new life from their bodies. The woman touched her chest, and then her stomach. The child grows here, inside the mother. Slowly, month by month, it becomes stronger. The mother feels it move, feels it live. And when the time comes, she gives birth. Liara's breath caught. She gripped her cloak tightly. Her mind painted terrifying images. Another being growing inside a body, feeding, moving, waiting to come out. "That is," she whispered, "that is horrifying." The human smiled at her reaction, but kindly. "It may sound frightening," the woman said, "but it is also beautiful. It is our way. Without it, none of us would be here." Liara looked around. Children playing in the dirt, fathers holding babies, mothers smiling proudly. Each one had once lived inside another human body. Her people would call it madness. To risk the body, to endure pain, to carry another life inside your flesh, it was unthinkable. In her world, machines controlled life. There was no danger, no suffering. But here, it was the core of human existence. Liara's voice shook. "Does it not destroy you? Does it not hurt beyond reason?" A young mother nearby spoke up. Her eyes softened as she looked at her child. "It hurts, yes. It changes us forever. But when you hold your baby for the first time, all the pain disappears. You only feel love." Liara stared at her. She could not understand. Pain and love together? Suffering and joy in the same act? To her, it was a contradiction. To the humans, it was natural. She felt a cold chill run down her spine. The humans were not only willing to suffer, they chose to suffer again and again to bring new life into the world. Her thoughts screamed, "This is impossible. This is dangerous. Why would any species accept this?" Yet the proof was all around her, smiling faces, warm fires, children laughing. Humanity had survived, not despite this horror, but because of it. Liara stood up suddenly. Her hands trembled. The villagers looked at her, surprised. "You risk your lives? Every time. And you call it beautiful?" she asked, her voice rising. The older woman nodded gently. "Yes, because we know it is worth it. We give life, even if it costs us. That is what it means to be human." Liara stepped back, her mind spinning. She realized the truth was more terrifying than she imagined. Humans did not just survive through strength or intelligence. They survived because they were willing to face pain for love, to walk through suffering for the future. She whispered to herself, so quietly no one else could hear. Humans are monsters. Beautiful, fearless monsters. Her heart pounded like a drum. She had learned the truth. and now she was more afraid of them than ever before. The horror grows. The night air was cool, but Liara felt hot inside her cloak. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she walked away from the fire. The human's words burned in her mind. We give life, even if it costs us. On her planet, life was made inside safe chambers. No risk, no danger. The child grew inside machines, protected by technology, guided by science. Parents never suffered. Parents never bled. To her people, it was efficient and perfect. But here, on Earth, humans did the unthinkable. They risked their very bodies. They allowed pain, blood, and danger, all to bring new life. And what horrified her most was not the act itself, but the way they spoke of it with pride, even joy. The next day, Liara followed a young mother through the village. The woman carried a baby in her arms, humming softly as she worked. The baby clutched her finger, tiny and fragile. Liara stared, her heart trembling. She finally asked, "Does it not terrify you? To carry life inside your own body, to feel it move, to feel it feed on you?" The mother turned, surprised by the question. "Of course it is frightening," she admitted, her voice soft. "But it is also wonderful. You feel connected. You feel you are giving something greater than yourself." Liara stepped back. The words sounded like madness. On her world, connection was formed after birth, not before. To her, the idea of a creature living inside another felt parasitic, horrifying. Yet the woman's face shone with love, not fear. Later, Liara overheard two men talking. One was speaking about his wife, who had nearly died giving birth. His voice shook with sadness, but also with pride. "She almost didn't make it," he said, staring into the distance. "But she was strong. She brought our son into the world. And because of her, he lives." The other man placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your wife is brave. That is the strength of humans." Liara froze. She could not believe what she heard. To her people, losing one life to create another would be considered a terrible failure, a crime against reason. But humans honored it. They called it bravery. They called it love. Her stomach twisted. Her mind screamed, "This is horror. This is madness." That night, Liara could not eat. She sat in silence while the villagers sang. Every laugh, every smile, every child's giggle felt strange to her now. She looked at the mothers holding their children close. She looked at the men watching proudly, and she whispered to herself, "How do they survive this? How do they accept such pain as normal?" The fire crackled, sending sparks into the night sky. Liara's eyes reflected the flames. She felt trapped between two truths: her people's safe, sterile way, and humanity's dangerous, painful way. She remembered her own childhood in the laboratories of her world. Cold walls, shining machines, soft humming of artificial wombs. She had never seen a mother hold her baby after giving birth. She had never seen pain turn into joy. To her, such a thing was alien. Now, she realized something terrifying. Perhaps her people were the weaker ones. Perhaps humans had survived, not despite the pain, but because of it. The thought horrified her. It made her knees weak. One of the villagers noticed her silence and asked, "Are you unwell, traveler?" Liara forced a smile, though her voice shook. I'm only thinking. Your ways are strange to me." The villager laughed kindly. "Strange to outsiders, maybe, but to us this is life." Those words echoed in her head long after the fire died. This is life. She could not escape the truth anymore. Humans did not fear suffering. They accepted it. They embraced it. They made it part of their existence. And that was the true horror. For the first time in her journeys across the stars, Liara felt she had found a species more terrifying than warlike beasts or cruel empires. A species that could walk through agony with a smile, that could call danger beautiful. She whispered to herself, shivering in the dark. Humans are dangerous not because of their weapons, but because of their hearts. Curiosity versus fear. Liara could not sleep. She lay under the human sky, staring at the stars that reminded her of home. The voices of the villagers still echoed in her mind. Their laughter, their calm words about pain and sacrifice, it haunted her. Fear still lived in her chest. But alongside that fear, something else had begun to grow: curiosity. She had traveled across the galaxy to study humans. She was supposed to report facts, numbers, and behaviors. But what she had seen here was not just behavior. It was a mystery. A terrifying, beautiful mystery. The next morning, Liara walked through the village again. Children chased each other between the houses, their shouts full of joy. A woman rocked a baby in her arms, singing softly. Men worked in the fields, their hands covered in soil, but their faces bright with pride. Liara stood among them, her heart heavy with questions. Fear told her to leave. Curiosity told her to stay. She finally approached the woman with the baby. May I hold her?" Liara asked carefully. The woman smiled and placed the child into her arms. The baby was warm, fragile, alive. Liara stared down, her hands trembling. This small creature once lived inside another body. It grew there, safe yet dangerous, and now it breathes the same air as me. The baby reached up and touched her finger. Liara froze. In that moment, she felt something she had never felt before. Connection. "Doesn't it terrify you?" Liara whispered, almost to herself. "To carry life, to risk so much for this." The mother smiled, her eyes soft. "Yes, it is frightening. But fear is only part of the story. The other part is love." Liara looked at her, confused. "Love? Enough to risk your life?" "Yes," the woman said simply. "That is what makes it worth it." The word struck Liara deeply. In her world, fear always meant retreat, caution, control. But here, humans mixed fear with love, suffering with joy. Later, Liara sat with a group of villagers near the river. They washed clothes, joked, and told stories. Liara asked again, her voice careful but steady. "Why do you accept the pain? Why not find another way? An easier way, a safer way?" One man answered, "Because the pain teaches us. It makes us strong. It makes us value what we create." Another added, "We are not only makers of machines. We are makers of life. And that life is worth every struggle." Liara shivered. These answers frightened her, but they also fascinated her. The humans were not running away from their suffering. They embraced it. They shaped it into meaning. She leaned forward, her eyes glowing faintly in the sunlight. "Do you not fear losing control? Do you not fear death?" A young mother nearby answered with a steady voice. "Of course we fear it, but love is stronger than fear. And in the end, it is not death that defines us. It is what we give to the next generation." Liara was silent. Those words cut through her like a blade. She had studied many worlds. She had seen species who fought wars endlessly, others who built great cities of crystal, others who bent nature itself to their will. But never had she seen a species that carried life inside their fragile bodies, risking death willingly, and called it love. Her fear remained, but now it was no longer pure terror. It was something mixed with awe. That evening, Liara sat apart from the villagers, watching them from the shadows. Her thoughts spun wildly. Perhaps this is why they survive. Perhaps this is why they are stronger than we imagine. Not because of their machines, but because of their hearts. She whispered to herself, "They are mad. They are terrifying. And yet, I cannot look away." The firelight danced in her eyes. For the first time, she wondered if she was no longer just an observer. Perhaps she was becoming part of the story herself. Reflection. The village grew quiet as the evening sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched across the fields, and the sky turned deep orange and purple. Liara sat on a wooden bench at the edge of the village, her cloak wrapped tightly around her. She watched the children chasing fireflies, their small hands reaching for the glowing insects that floated in the air. Each child's laughter struck her heart like a drum. Hours ago, she had learned the truth about their origin, that each of these tiny humans had once lived inside another. The thought still made her shiver, but now, as she watched them run with such joy, something new stirred inside her. Respect. She thought of her own people back on her homeworld. Children that were born in sterile chambers, surrounded by machines. No risk, no pain. The parents visited only when the child was ready to be shown to them. No mother ever risked her life. No father ever stayed awake at night, worrying for two lives at once. It was clean. It was efficient. But was it love? Liara's bright blue eyes followed a young mother who sat nearby, holding her newborn close. The baby whimpered softly, and the mother whispered soothing words until the child calmed. The woman's face glowed with tiredness, but also pride. Liara whispered to herself, "They suffer, and yet they glow with happiness." She remembered the old man's words from the fire. Without it, there is no future. Humans had chosen a dangerous path, but that danger made their bond stronger. Her people avoided danger, avoided pain. They believed survival meant safety above all else. But here, survival meant courage. It meant sacrifice. The realization shook her. Perhaps her species had been wrong. Perhaps the greatest strength did not come from avoiding pain, but from embracing it. Later that night, Liara walked into the forest, away from the village noise. The stars above were the same ones she had seen from her ship, but they felt different now. They felt alive, as if the entire universe was watching her. She thought of her mission. Her orders had been clear: study humans, report their weaknesses, understand their biology. But what she had found was no weakness. It was something far more powerful than she could put into words. She knelt by a stream, her reflection glowing faintly on the water surface. Her alien features, her glowing eyes, her smooth, pale skin, all of it suddenly felt distant, as if she no longer belonged fully to her own kind. Her voice trembled as she spoke softly to herself. We create life in machines, but here, they carry it inside their bodies. They bleed for it. They suffer for it. And still they call it beautiful. Maybe that is why they endure. She remembered wars she had studied in the human history books. Humans had faced famine, disease, and death countless times. And still they rose again, building new cities, raising new generations. Now she understood why. It was not just their intelligence. It was not just their technology. It was this terrifying, beautiful bond of love and sacrifice. The sound of footsteps broke her thoughts. A small girl from the village had followed her, holding a lantern. "Why are you alone?" the child asked innocently. Liara turned, startled. I was thinking." The child tilted her head. "About what?" Liara hesitated, then smiled faintly. "About humans. About how strong you are." The girl giggled. "Strong? We're just people." "No," Liara whispered, her voice heavy with emotion. "You are more than that. You are stronger than you know." The girl didn't understand, but she smiled anyway, handing Liara the lantern. "It's dark. You shouldn't be alone." Liara watched her run back toward the village. She held the lantern in her hands, its small flame glowing against the night. For the first time, she felt something inside her heart that she could not explain. It was not just fear anymore. It was not only curiosity. It was admiration. Humans frightened her, but they also inspired her. She looked back at the stars, her voice steady now. "Perhaps my people think they are advanced, but maybe it is the humans who have found the truest strength." The reflection in the stream flickered with the lantern light. Liara stared at her own face, realizing that she had changed. She had come to Earth as an observer. Now she was something else, someone who carried the weight of a secret too powerful to ignore. For she now knew, humanity's greatest weapon was not steel, fire, or technology. It was their willingness to suffer for love, to face horror with courage, and to call it life. The revelation. The ship hummed softly as Liara sat in the pilot's chair, staring out at the endless stars. The village lights on Earth had faded behind her, but the memory of them burned brighter than any sun. She had seen laughter. She had seen tears. She had seen mothers hold children with pride after risking everything to bring them into the world. Now, she carried that truth inside her like a heavy stone. Her orders were clear: report your findings. Reveal what makes humans strong or weak. But how could she explain what she had witnessed? How could she put into words the madness and beauty she had seen? The stars shifted as her ship connected to her homeworld's communication beacon. A voice echoed through the cabin. "Explore, Liara. Report. Her throat tightened. She hesitated. Then, slowly, she began. I lived among them. I studied them. Humans are not like us. They are not like any species we have ever known. The Council of Elders appeared as shimmering images on the screen. Their faces were calm, cold, curious. Explain, one of them said. Liara closed her eyes and spoke with a steady voice. On their world, life does not begin in machines. It begins inside their own bodies. A mother carries a child within her flesh, risking her life every moment. She bleeds. She suffers. And yet she calls it love. The council murmured in shock. One elder leaned forward. Inside their bodies? That is impossible. That is reckless. Yes, Liara whispered, her voice trembling. Reckless. Terrifying. Horrifying. And yet, it is the source of their strength. The room fell silent. Liara continued, her voice growing stronger. On my world, we avoid pain. We build walls against it. We trust machines to keep us safe. But humans walk into pain with open eyes. They embrace it. They survive it. And from it, they create life. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. One of them frowned. You say this makes them strong? No, this makes them fragile. Liara's eyes flashed. No, you are wrong. Their fragility is their strength. They risk everything again and again to ensure their future. Where we hide from suffering, they rise from it. That is why they endure when others fall. Her words echoed in the chamber. The council was silent, disturbed. One elder finally asked, What is your conclusion, explorer? Liara's hands tightened on the console. She thought of the children chasing fireflies. She thought of the mothers smiling through tears. She thought of the words she had whispered to herself by the stream. Perhaps it is the humans who have found the truest strength. She raised her head, her voice calm and final. My conclusion is this. Humans horrify me. Their way of life is dangerous, full of suffering. But perhaps that is why they're the most dangerous and most beautiful species in the galaxy. The council gasped. One elder's voice cracked with disbelief. Beautiful? You dare call such madness beautiful? Yes, Liara said firmly. Because it is not madness, it is meaning. They give their lives so that others may live. They embrace love even when it costs them everything. That is a power we cannot measure. That is a power we cannot defeat. The silence that followed was heavy, unbroken. The elders stared at her, but no words came. For the first time, Liara realized she had given them something they feared more than human weapons, truth. She leaned back in her chair, her heart pounding. She knew her report would shake her people. Perhaps they would call her a traitor. Perhaps they would dismiss her words as impossible. But she had seen it with her own eyes. She whispered to herself, softly but firmly, Humans are monsters of love, and that is why they will outlast us all. The stars stretched before her as the ship drifted silently through the void. Liara's eyes glowed faintly blue, but inside, she carried something brighter than starlight, an unshakable respect for the fragile, terrifying, extraordinary species called humanity.